This video is packed with information that you need if you want to move to the United States in 2024. I am going to be interviewing a company and an immigration attorney that will give you every information you need if you are interested. There are so many ways that people are beginning to use to move to the United States for doctors, for nurses, and for other professionals. And so many of these ways are like things that have been there, but people are beginning to realize that it is possible right now. And some people are making it to look like it's very, very easy and shiny, but all those doubts is going to be cleared in this video as you are going to hear from the horse's mouth. And so really it's a first of its kind. I don't think that it exists. And I have to be clear, and the beautiful thing about this interview is that one of the program is actually brand new. So if you're a doctor, you are in luck because there is a program now for doctors to move to the United States completely free of charge, just like nurses. I mean, you can move to the United States all expense paid, just like nurses that can move to the United States all expense paid. That is for your exam and for your travel and all of that. The doctors now have that opportunity. All that you need to move to the United States, to write the exam, they will sponsor you. To move to the United States, they will sponsor you. To get your residency, they will sponsor you, and they will help you all through the way. Okay, so this is one of the best interviews I've done this year, and I am really pumped up for it. And if you are excited as I am, please give this video a thumbs up, share with a nurse, doctor, and other professionals that you know will be interested in moving to the United States from 2024, because this year is of course done. And I want you to watch this video to the very end so that you hear all the information, especially if you are really, really excited about moving to the United States. And for nurses as well, there is a good news, because this time around, we are not going to wait for the retrogression, because there is another option for you if your country is affected by retrogression. That is, like, you can pass all your exams and you will still not find yourself in the United States because of the backlogs. But there is another option, and all of this is what we are going to be talking about in this video. So whether you're a nurse, you're a doctor, or other professionals, this video is something you don't want to miss. And please, guys, like this video, share with someone. That is very, very important. And before you think that I'm sponsored for this video, I am excited and super pumped for this video because I feel like it's something that people need. It is not a sponsored video, but when I heard about this, I said, yes, I'm going to get them on this channel because I know that you want the real thing. Okay, so without talking too much, let's get into it.
Hello everyone. I know I'm now a regular face on this channel. So my name is Decency. The owner of Decency Enclaves Academy and Decency Staffing Solution. And I have one of my colleagues, and I've worked with him for some time now. I'm going to let him introduce himself. But one of the things that we're bringing to you is some very rare opportunity that we feel like people should know about and people should take advantage of. We'll be talking about doctors immigrating to the United States, the pathways that you have to follow, the assistance and the solutions that we have, presently, and then we'll also talk about other areas of assistance that we have been giving to people, relocating to the United States or other countries. All right. Thank you, Lynda, for the good job you're doing on this channel.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, my name is Douglas Kofi. I'm the managing partner over at Diamondback Legal. We're an immigration lawyer, law firm in Phoenix, Arizona. We specialize in all kinds of immigration petitions, but specifically healthcare worker recruitment from Africa. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I look forward to interacting with you guys.
Like that today. So can you walk us through the process if a Nigerian doctor, for instance, or someone that graduated in Ghana or Kenya as a doctor and wants to practice in the United States, how will the person go about it?
Yeah, it's a little different for nurses. Well, it's a lot different for nurses, as you know. I think the biggest difference is that doctors have to write a series of exams as opposed to just one exam, which is the NCLEX for nurses. And the other thing too is that the doctors, physicians have to go through residency to be able to practice in the US. And so what happens is that for the nurse recruitment, the timeline to get a nurse, without visa retrogression in place, which is a different topic, but for the nurse to go from working in a different country to working in the US, that process can be accomplished in less than 6 months. In theory, you can get a license to practice as a nurse in the US within 6 months. And then you have to go through the immigration process of getting here, but the actual license takes about that much. For physicians, you have to take the steps, and then you have to match into residency, which the minimum, as we know, is 3 years. And if you want to do a fellowship or something else, it's even longer. And then after that, if you complete residency, then you take the boards. And if it's not, you don't need to take the boards to practice, but a lot of people do it. So you take the boards, and then if you get board certified, then you can practice as a physician in the US. And so that's the average timeline. And so for companies that are recruiting physicians, and there's a huge need for physicians in the US, the reason why a lot of companies stay away from that as opposed to nurses is that there's a lot of risk. First of all, when the physicians don't pass the exams, it goes on their record, which makes it even harder for them to match into residency after they fail the first time, which is not the same for nurses. I mean, the NCLEX, you can take it and,
many times.
If you fail a couple of times, it doesn't really affect your application. Right. But for a physician, if you take the steps and you fail, it goes on your record and everybody can see how many attempts you've taken, which affects your chances of matching into residency. And so that's a risk for the company, right? Because one, you failed, so then they have to pay for you to do it again. And then even if you pass the second time, it may affect your chance of getting into residency. That's the first risk. The second risk is that you may or may not be able to get through residency. I mean, there's a lot of people who get into residency and then they realize that this is too much. This is not something they want to do. Right. And residency, for all intents and purposes, is actually more difficult than being practicing as an attending physician. And rightfully so. I mean, it's supposed to get you through the rigors of being a physician. And so it's actually more difficult being a resident than it is being an attending physician. And so a lot of people go through that process and they decide that they don't want to become physicians. And so that's the second risk for the business if the business were to sponsor you. The third part is that it's going to take them about 4 to 5 years for you to actually have a license to practice medicine in the US, right? Because it takes you about 1.5 years or a year to go through the steps to immigrate to the US, match into residency, complete residency in 3 years, and then become a physician. So, the company would have to invest money in you, wait for about 4 to 5 years before they can realize any kind of return on the investment. And so all of those things cumulatively makes it difficult for companies to be able to invest in people to go through that process. That is why the nurses is much easier and simpler than it is for physicians. But there's a huge need for physicians, just like there's a huge need for nurses in the US. Now, what we do, obviously, my job is an immigration lawyer, and so I help with the immigration portion of it. But there's, a program that we're starting to create that would, in partnership with other agencies, that would get physicians through the process. So they would take the steps, get them through the prep course for the step, pay for the steps, so they don't have to pay anything for the steps, help them with US clinical experience. My firm would obviously do the visa requirements that are needed for them to get those clinical experiences. After they're done with that, help them with residency matching, pay for the cost for the residency matching. And then, when they match into residency, help them apply for either a J1 visa or the relevant visa that would allow them to come to residency in the US. When they complete residency, obviously there's jobs for physicians all over. And so we help them find a suitable job contract. Once they sign the contract, and they start working as an attending physician, there's a payment schedule that allows them to be able to pay back the investment that the person has made over the last 5 years on their behalf. And so really it's a first of its kind. I don't think that it exists. And I have to be clear, with my role, obviously my license is that of an attorney, and my legal license is limited to the practice of law, which is the immigration portion of it. and the investment is handled by somebody else that who is going to be paying for it. And then also we have partnership with Decency and somebody else who is going to be helping them with the prep course. And then we have physicians in the US who have actually gone through the process themselves, who can help mentor them, through the process. And so really it's sort of a peer mentorship process that could, that's the first of its kind that can allow people to have opportunities that didn't exist before.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this is one of its kind, and I like how comprehensive the whole program is. And I'm really, like when you told me about this, I said, I'm really excited for our doctors because I know how hard it is for them to practice in the US. So how many years experience do they need?
Actually, we prefer recent graduates. We prefer people who are fresh out of school. And the reason for that is that most of the residency programs, I know that the St. Joe's, Creighton University in Arizona, their maximum is you must have graduated medical school within the last 3 years to get into their residency program. And so it's a disadvantage actually for people who've been practicing medicine for a long time. They want fresh graduates out of medical school, or people who have graduated within the last 3 years. And so really experience is really not necessary to be able to get through it.
Okay, so with the retrogression and something like that I have mentioned, do you have specific countries that you wouldn't want to recruit from, or do you accept anyone from any country at all?
Well, the beauty about this program is that retrogression has no effect on this whatsoever. Retrogression has no effect on this whatsoever. Well, because the visa for the doctors to come to the US to residency is a non-immigrant visa, right? And so that non-immigrant visas are not affected by retrogression. And so they could either get a J1 visa that would allow them to come and to come to residency, attend residency, and go through the training program in the US. So retrogression will come into effect when they start the attending jobs and they apply for an immigrant visa. That's when retrogression will come into effect. But in terms of getting them to the US, they're not affected by retrogression.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for this. And I believe that if you're watching this video and you're a doctor, I mean, this is like an amazing opportunity for you. And if you know someone that's a doctor or a student doctor about to graduate or that has just graduated, then this is an amazing opportunity. So you also have something for nurses, right? So can we talk about the process for nurses? How do you come in? How do you help?
Yeah, so we have DCC and I have been working with a couple of staffing agencies that have recently introduced an H-1B visa for nurses as a solution to the retrogression problem that all of us are facing. And so the way that it works is that an H-1B is a non-immigrant visa, okay? Typically, you can get it for 3 years. It allows you to travel to the US, live and work, and you can come with your family, your spouse and children at the age of 21. The downside to the H-1B is that your spouse cannot work in the US on an H-4 visa, which is a dependent visa for the H-1B. And so if you bring your spouse over, they can go to school, but they're not allowed to work under your H-1B. If they wanted to work, they would have to get their own employment-based visa, whatever that may be. But the H-1B really is a solution to the retrogression because it allows you to come to the US much quicker. Typically, if you find an organization that is able to sponsor cap-exempt H-1B, which means that you're not subject to the lottery requirements of the H-1B, you can get to the US, in less than a year. But with the H-1B, you need to have an advanced degree or specialty occupation. So, it's not just a general nursing thing. You have to be a specialized occupation like a nurse practitioner or anesthesia or any kind of operation,
any kind of specialty.
It has to be a specialty occupation. I think that's the drawback, is that it's not open to everybody. And so if you're a nurse and you have a bachelor's degree and you have a specialty occupation, this really is for you. And you've passed the NCLEX, obviously. This really is for you, and you can get to the US much quicker. And then when you arrive in the US, they will start the EB3 process for you. The EB3 is what gives you the green card, right? And so you come to the US on the H-1B, you start working, they apply for the EB-3. So by the time your contract is done with them, you would have had your green card, you know. And so what it does is that it allows you to circumvent waiting outside the US for your priority date to become current, or even the backlogs, you know, at the embassies back home. It allows you to come here, travel to the US much sooner, begin working, begin, you know, also getting US experience. Because, I mean, as you know, once you have US experience, a year or 2 years of US experience, a lot of other doors open for you. Travel nursing, you know, direct hires. I mean, there's a host of opportunities that open up for you. And this allows you to come here and gather that experience much sooner before your green card comes in.
Oh, okay. I think this is really, really good. And a lot of people will be interested in this because so many people are discouraged right now because of the time it takes to get the EB-3 and all. So what I want to ask about this one is, I know in nursing, without the advanced degree, we still have specialties. Like many of us graduate as nurse and a midwife. So if someone is a nurse and a midwife as well, does that count as a specialty? Mr. Dixon, do you know?
Well, a specialty, yeah. It's a combination of degree and experience.
Right.
So even if you don't have the bachelor's degree and you have, I think, a minimum of 10 years experience, or, you know, it's a combination of both. So if you don't have the advanced degree and you have the experience, you know, that could certainly count.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for that.
Let me just chip in a little bit. So I'll take it back a little bit. So on the H-1B, this is going to be strictly for us. It's going to be strictly for those who have degrees. So I know that in Africa, we have lots of countries that they do diploma trainings, like RN programs that take you 3 years to complete. And this H-1B would not be for anyone who has done that kind of program. So for the one that we are processing right now is strictly for those that have their degrees. Like if you have gone to the university and you've done a program and it gives you like a BSN degree, that's the people we are targeting. Okay. So, and also when it comes to what was the other question? Sorry.
Like if you are a nurse and then a midwife. So the midwife.
Yeah. So midwifery is a specialty, you know, in nursing. It's not just nursing. I know it's called nursing and midwifery, but it's the midwifery part is a specialty. But what we do in that is, if you're counting the specialty, in the experience the person has in that area, it has to be at least up to 10 years, I suppose. So about 10 years or more experience in that area.
Okay. All right, I think we understand that. Thank you so much. And I'm happy we have this option as well for nurses. So if you really want to move to the United States sooner, okay, so for the next one, let's talk about the national interest waiver, the NIW.
Yeah, the NIW, the visa category is an EB2 visa category. It's a second preference based. So there's, you know, 5 preference-based EB1, EB2, EB3, which everybody knows for nurses, and then EB4, EB5. So the NIW is an EB2. And the beautiful thing about the NIW is that you can do it as a self-petitioner. What that means is that you don't necessarily need an employer to sponsor you. So with, you know, the EB3 one that we're talking about for nurses, you need the employer to file the I-140 petition on your behalf. But the NIW, you can petition yourself, which means you don't need a job offer to petition for it. But it's a much more difficult visa to get because you have to have an advanced degree to begin with. And then the NIW stands for National Interest Waiver, right? For you to be able to get the National Interest Waiver, you need to prove that your endeavor, your career, or your field of study would contribute meaningfully to the economy of the United States, or to the United States, such that it's in the interest of the country to waive to grant your waiver, to grant your favorable exercise of discretion on your waiver. So what that means basically is that you have to prove to the government that your course of study, your field of endeavor, your career would have tremendous benefits to the United States, such that the government should allow you to come to the US and contribute to the economy. I mean, that's all that means. And you have to, obviously have an advanced degree. And then, there's a list of documentation that, a checklist of documents that we request from you. But the basic benchmark or the standard that you have to meet is that you have to show that, again, your field of study is in the interest of the United States. So they should grant you a waiver for that. But that's all that is.
Okay, so how long does this take if someone is interested and wants to start the process? Do you know how long it takes for someone to?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the NIW is affected by retrogression. So when you look at the visa bulletin, I think they retrogress for about 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And so the time frame from start to finish, I think a person could be looking, in theory, between. And the other thing is that they could also pay for premium process. So there's two parts to the process. There's the first part, which is the application itself that we do in the US. That one you can apply for premium processing. And the premium processing, when you pay for it, they have to give you a decision within 15 days of receipt of your application. So that goes by a lot quicker. And if that gets approved, now you have to wait until your priority date becomes current, just to go through the consular processing phase at the NVC. And so I would say between 2.5 to 3 years is the timeline for the NIW petitions.
Okay. There's something that I would like to ask, because this is becoming popular on Instagram especially, and people are talking about how the cost and everything. Are you able to share how much this costs for people that are interested in this kind of visa and they apply? Because I know some people get rejected as well. So if someone applies for this and they get rejected, you know, like the cost implication.
Yeah, so give me 1 second here. Look at the filing fee. The premium processing is $2,500. I think for NIW waivers, you can expect to pay an attorney anywhere from $3,000, so $2,500 to $3,000 on the low end, all the way to $6,000 to $7,000 in attorney fees, plus premium processing fee if you want to pay for that. And so I think in theory, a person can expect to pay anywhere between $5,000 to $8,000 for the NIW. And obviously, if you're not successful, you've lost that money. You have to pay it all over again to do it again. What we do, though, is that we can look at your application and then we can tell you whether or not you have a strong application for NIW or not. And that would save you, and that is free. You don't have to pay anything for that. And then after we've explained your options and your chances of being successful at this visa to you, then you can make a decision whether or not that's a risk that you want to take. I think for most people who go down this path is that, because they have an advanced degree, so people would have a PhD in communications, for example. And then they go through the NIW process just because they have an advanced degree and they think that they qualify. And unfortunately, they get rejected. And you've just spent a lot of money to go through that process without first doing an assessment to make sure that this is something that's going to be successful. And so the first step, to save you money, is talk to a lawyer, see what your chances are of being successful at the application before you spend the money.
Thank you so much. And I'm really excited that I asked you that question. And I know you have saved a lot of people, because this is becoming so popular on the internet and they make it look so easy. So I'm really, really happy that I asked you that question. And thank you so much for the information you have shared here today. I'm really, really happy that you made out this time, and I'm excited for this session. I learned a lot, and I believe that a lot of people that watch this video as well, they must have benefited in one way or the other. So thank you so much for this time. And anybody that wants to apply and wants to go through any of these processes for the doctors, for the nurses, and for the NIW, we are going to leave the information and the description of this video. So if you have any questions, let us know in the comment section and we'll get back to you with the answers if we have it.